Hey, BR Tidwell 55 here, responding to Emeek77 / Apple Soldier and his little rant about not having an install disk on a new PC. Actually, I agree, that's kind of a pain in the butt. I buy a new PC from an OEM. I would prefer to have the Windows installation disk rather than the recovery CDs or the recovery partition that a lot of them do. Actually, their OEM license agreement with Microsoft gives them the option either or, to either provide a recovery partition or to provide installation media. Now, as a power user, I prefer to have the installation media because, you know, if they'd give me that, you know, as soon as I got home, the first thing I do would be, you know, wipe the factory crap off and reinstall it and get it the way I want it. But I'm in the minority. Most people aren't power users, and OEM well, I'm being redundant. OEMs realize that. And the easier they can make it for the consumer, and also the easier they can make it for themselves, that's exactly what they're going to do. Because if you think about it, someone who isn't a power user, they get a computer home, they use it for a couple months for whatever reason, they get a virus or whatever, the system craps out on them, and the only thing they can do is reinstall the operator, and the only thing they can do is basically wipe it and reinstall the system. What's going to be easier for them? To take the OS installation disk, reload Windows? That's just where you start. You know, then you have to worry about all the drivers and everything else to get the computer functioning the way it is supposed to function. The average user, I think, would probably be overwhelmed by that and would eat up a lot of tech support time trying to get things going again. Whereas if you provide just recovery disks with a factory image or a recovery partition, again with a factory image, makes system restoration much easier and takes a lot of human error out of the equation. So that's one reason. And even when you go to most large organizations with large IT departments, will have a gold standard image for their Windows systems. It just makes deploying and fixing the computers when there are problems that much easier. The other thing you're talking about was the demoware, the crapware, I call it. And yeah, most of it is crapware. Most people never use. But again, even though I don't like it, I understand why they do it. See, Dell, HP, Gateway, they're making computers for the mass market, and they have to keep costs down as much as they can, so in order to compete. So, you know, their per unit margin is razor thin. So anything they can do to increase that bottom line, to include cut deals with software developers to provide demos of their software on their new systems, well, that's what they do. You know, and you talked about, you know, instead of putting the demo of Microsoft Office on there, why not put OpenOffice? Well, they could do that, but who's going to pay them to put a demo of OpenOffice on there? Nobody. They're not going to do it out of the goodness of their hearts. Come on, they're in business to make money. You got to understand that. So, yeah, it's a pain in the butt, and I know last time I bought a new computer from an OEM, the first thing I did was spend about 2 hours getting rid of all the crapware that I wasn't going to use. But that's part of the reason why I decided the last computer I bought, I actually built myself, one of those homemade bombs that you talk about. Haven't had any problems with it. I know what went in it. I configured it exactly the way I wanted it, and I didn't have to put up with all of those headaches. Yeah, I know. I could have just bought a Mac, but oh well. I didn't. My choice. So, anyway, I think that's about it. I think I covered about all of the points that you covered. You know, yeah, recovery partition and actual OS installation media. Personally, I'll take the OS installation media every time. Crapware, no crapware, of course, no crapware. Don't want it, don't need it. But there again, there are reasons why this happens. So, I guess what it comes down to, you know, your beef should be with Dell and with HP and with Gateway or whoever's making gateways these days. That brand has changed hands so many times. Not necessarily with Microsoft. There's plenty of other things to get on Microsoft about. Oh, one thing you talked about, antivirus, how they should provide antivirus free. Well, there again, antivirus companies are in business to make money. Go out of business pretty quick if all they did was if they just provided free antivirus, free updates. I don't really like that much either, but again, that's sort of the way the world works. There are free alternatives out there to using Norton or McAfee or whatever. There's AVG, there's Avast. Both have freeware antivirus editions that they free for home use, free for home non-commercial use, and those are good antivirus solutions. Or you could just use Linux. My little plug there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a happy new year.